Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz. It's now reported he's agreed personal terms with Arsenal. You're looking between 50 and 60 million pounds is going to be the proposed price. I want to go to Igal first on this because I know I've seen you ride this guy, ruin him. It looks like you're about to make him one of the biggest signings in Arsenal Football Club's history. Talk to me, bro.
TTP, trust the process.
Trust the process, bro.
Listen, I don't know how to feel. That's the honest truth. When it comes to my initial thoughts, immediately when you first hear it, you say to yourself, Kai Havertz, what? Nah, this is a joke. This is just Chelsea trying to someone, his agent trying to get him a move, right? This can't be true. But then you know what? It escalates and it's like, I don't even know what to say. Maha, just wait for 1 second. It escalates and then it's like, I'm starting to think to myself, what do they see in him? Because I don't see him as a striker. I don't see him as a number 10. I don't see him as a winger. And I don't really see him as a midfielder either. So I don't know what Mikel Arteta sees in him. But he's been able to do this before where he's gotten guys that I wasn't really interested in signing and he made the best out of them. So I have to somewhat give him credit in the bank and say maybe if he signs him, he might become good. But what is the logical point of giving them 60 million so then they can go and get Caicedo, who, in my opinion, was somebody who I really wanted coming into this window? It just leaves me scratching my head, confused in why we're doing this. And as long as Mikel Arteta wants the player, I back him. But personally, I don't understand the transfer.
Kai Havertz is garbage. Listen, I don't care. He might go to Arsenal and he banked 20 goals and everyone said, oh, Nick said he was garbage. I said he was garbage. I've been saying he's garbage for the last 2 years. I'm not going to change now because Arteta has great talent ID. He has to prove me wrong. And he was good at Bayer Leverkusen. And since he's been at Chelsea, he's been awful. Now, we might put it down to the management. We might put it down to just everything that's gone on at the club, etc. But I can only judge you based on what you're doing. He's been there for, is it 2 years now? 3?
3 years.
3 years.
Season. Yep.
3
And
years.
he's actually got progressively worse as each season's gone by. His first season.
That's what Chelsea do to everybody, bro.
No.
Hold on. Nick, no, finish what you're saying. We'll go into it. Finish what you're saying. We'll go into it.
So for me, yes, there's managers, there's owners, there's just everything going to the fan base and maybe toxic this or that. But you as a player have a job to do. And for one reason or another, he hasn't been able to find his position. He hasn't been able to find his form. He hasn't been able to find any kind of fluency, whether it be at Chelsea, in the Premier League in general. And he's just been a bad signing. It may work out elsewhere, but I can only judge on what I've seen, and he's awful.
So there are two aspects here before we move on. There is the price and there is the player. I am maybe he sees the same as Odegaard. Odegaard at Real Madrid maybe wasn't great, but then look at Odegaard this year. Maybe he's just looking at the Bayer Leverkusen.
That was better than anything we've seen from Kai Havertz.
How many starts in Odegaard?
I agree with you. However, maybe he saw what he had at Bayer Leverkusen. Remember, Kai Havertz is still 24, so he has a resale value. If it's a success at Arsenal, there is the resale value there. But the price, I don't understand how Arsenal can go to Chelsea, who purchased this guy for 68 million pounds and offered him 60 after 3 seasons of failure after failure. You have to at least half that price. You paid 68 for a 21 years old. Now he's 3 years older and you want 60 million. That's what I don't understand. The player himself, maybe what Igal said about talent ID from Arteta, he did it before when everybody said that Odegaard is not good enough, and look at Odegaard this year. So maybe he sees the same. But 60 million, I think Arsenal is stupid. They're absolute idiots.
Ask questions,
Bro, 60 million is a robbery. Let's be honest. I was laughing at Real Madrid 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to change my mind. That's ridiculous.
35 million is fair enough based on what he did at Liverpool.
What are you saying? Because you super chatted into the show last night and you kind of defended it as a good bit of business.
I don't know what my missus put in my water tail, to be honest with you. I've had a night to kind of mull it over. But no, to be honest with you, right, I did say that if the price was right, then I wouldn't have a massive issue with this signing. And there's a little bit of logic behind it, I suppose. I'm trying to think a little bit out of the box, maybe what Mikel Arteta is looking at, maybe what Mikel Arteta is looking at doing with the team. Now, £60 million and £200,000 a week. No, I don't want him. Yeah, Chelsea, you can keep him, right? But however, if we were saying, say we get Kai Havertz for 45 million, then I'd think that's a bit more of a reasonable deal, right? And now I look at our team and I look at, right, okay, everybody's questioning what's Kai Havertz's best position? Where does he fit in at Arsenal? Oh, clearly to me, he can't play number 9. So if we're bringing him in to play number 9, then I just think this transfer is ridiculous completely altogether. So the only real option that I can think of is if you play him in and around the number 10 role and then move Odegaard to an 8. And then you've against the smaller teams, because we like to be a team that likes to predominantly have the ball and dominate the ball, you can kind of afford to play 2 attack-minded midfielders and then a 6 behind them. And then against the bigger teams, it gives you options then, because you've got Thomas Partey and Declan Rice potentially coming in. You could play 2 6s and 1 8 against the bigger teams. So it shores the midfield up a little bit. I also looked at it like this as well. If we're talking about 10 or 8 role or whatever you like, right? That then gives us 2 players in each position of the pitch that can play that role. So Odegaard and Havertz playing the 10, or Emil Smith-Rowe and Havertz can play the 10. You've got Fabio Vieira and Odegaard that can play the 8, Declan Rice and Thomas Partey that can play the 6. So that kind of makes a little bit more sense to me than bringing in Declan Rice and Caicedo, who are both predominantly 6s. So I'm not too sure about this, And then when I hear £60 million, but then you can go out and get Caicedo for £15 million more, it just makes this transfer seem more and more ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one, but I'm glad to hear that Agal is saying, look, if Mikel Arteta wants him, I back him, because I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter, and I know Twitter's not really, but I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter that big up Mikel Arteta's talent ID and this, that, and the other, that are absolutely kicking up a stink about this transfer. Back your manager.
Because it doesn't make sense. It reminds me of us needing players in other positions and going and signing Nicolas Pepe at the time. It's a similar kind of thing, because it's like we all here can sit here and say Kai Havertz was a quality player in Germany. He came to Chelsea and he hasn't lived up to the hype at all, right? But is it going to be a situation where when we sign him, he's just going to magically become that player that he was back in Germany? Or is it a situation that we're going to magically find a position for him? Like, I rate Arteta, but to a certain degree, you're looking at a deal and you're saying to yourself, what's going on?
I'm sorry, Brandon. I think the chat made me. I don't know if he's talking about Brandon or
could be either.
Could be, I saw a picture of you, Lewis, the other day. You're looking pretty hench, brother, at the minute. Looking pretty hench.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Chelsea will do that to you.
Well, I get that. I want to ask a question to the Chelsea boys. You first, Lewis. How happy are you that you might be getting anywhere between 50 to 70 million pound for Kai Havertz?
Would you take 45?
I would take 30. So I'm ecstatic. I'm so
45.
happy. I didn't think we'd see this day for years. And now he's going to my rivals as well. All the idiots who have overhyped and overprotected this guy for years, and he's decided to rat all of them out to the rivals. This is why you don't back a player over the club. Guy's not good enough in any position. I understand the debate about him potentially being used as depth. I personally think his only best attribute would be off the bench. That's the only consistent thing I've really seen of him. He is good for the last 15, 20 minutes of a game. But as an 8, he's got no physicality, no defensive awareness. He can barely create from deep with no consistency. As a 10, he can't create consistently and can't do well in tight spaces. As a winger, he can't beat a man consistently. His crossing ain't consistent at all. Up front, no hold-up play. Can't finish, can't head consistently. Guy's one of the worst players I've ever seen play for Chelsea. I've ever seen, because I know there's going to be worse. He's one of the worst I've ever seen play for Chelsea. And if we're going to rob Arsenal of 60 million, don't ask questions, accept the fee. get rid and end this end of an era that's been Kai Havertz.
Okay, I need to ask a quick question before we go to the next Chelsea fan. These are the positives that Arsenal fans are speaking about when we speak about Kai Havertz. His height brings us a different element because he might be able to head the ball. Is that a positive?
He's one of the worst headers that we've got in our squad.
No, it's one of his better attributes, but he has no consistency in it. So
I wouldn't even
call
call it one of his. I wouldn't even call it that, Lewis. I've seen this guy miss so many headers, man, and scuff so many of them.
It's just because most of his goals are headers.
Is he? Is
the only
he?
way he's getting the ball in
Would
that.
you say?
19 goals?
Would you say with good? Would you say with good wingers next to him, he'd be able to find them, and he has good vision?
If he's in tons of space, maybe, and it's still a debate. It's still a very big debate. Also, you need to make sure he has Skittles and sweets before games. Otherwise, he's going to be terrible in the first half. And he only really turns up around March. So,
can I add another thing to this debate, right? How much of Kai Havertz's poor form would you boys put down to the fact that he's had multiple managers at Chelsea? One of them being Frank Lampard twice, then Thomas Tuchel, and then Graham Potter, where it didn't really work for Chelsea at all. So, is there a player there that Mikel Arteta could potentially work with and get something out of, or is it just he's just a, you know?
On this question, what it is, I get a lot of strikers haven't been great at Chelsea over the past few seasons. Since Costa, I would say we haven't had a successful striker. Tammy was good, to be fair, when we had that transfer ban. He put up quite a lot of goals, but other than that, we haven't had that many strikers, right? But with Havertz, this thing about it's just Chelsea, it never works there for strikers is overstated. Because if you actually watch him, like me and Lewis do, week in, week out, this guy has consistently been played by every single manager that has coached this guy in various positions. So he's mainly been played straight down the middle. He's been played as a 9. He was underwhelming there. He's been played behind Lukaku. He's been underwhelming there. He's been played on the wing. He's been underwhelming there. So the strongest thing I would say with Havertz is he can find a pass. But again, he needs to be in acres of space. When the players come into him, he's not a Felix where he can nip out of it in tight spaces. He's not that, right? Havertz on the ball is not that. And he looks tall. He's quite tall, but he's quite slow. When he runs and he's chasing the ball, when he hasn't got the ball, it's like he's got a magnet on his back. Do you know what I mean? It's like something's holding him back.
He plays like he's high, bro.
Yeah, he is not. He is not a left centre mid. Every single Arsenal fan's trying to make sense of it and saying, he's going to come in for and playing Xhaka's role. He is someone that you bring off the bench when there's tired legs, there's a bit more space. He's someone that is just not. I just don't see how it's going to work at Arsenal.
No way. Trossard is levels clear.
Trossard is better than him.
I wanted to touch on this as well quickly because a lot of people try to say Havertz was misprofiled and he was let down by the whole Chelsea regime and all the managers and everything. First off, Kai Havertz was signed as a versatile player who could play in multiple positions and play in multiple positions well. Kai Havertz himself has come out and said in numerous interviews that he can play as a 9, he can play as a 10, he can play anywhere in the front three. So I hate the narrative. I'm not saying it's coming from you, but it's just in general. I hate the narrative in general that Kai Havertz has been let down by people. Right? He has let himself down. Exactly. He was Graham Potter's pet project. Tuchel gave him so much game time up front, and the whole narrative was, we play so much better as a team with Havertz than Lukaku. We are so much more fluid with him. Yet when we do that, he misses all of his opportunities. The team just play better with him because he's more selfless. The problem with Kai Havertz is simply himself. That's why he turns up in big games like a Champions League final, like Dortmund at home when we're 2-0 down and we need to turn it around. That's when he turns up. He ain't motivated for anything else. He is barely a jack of all trades. He's a master of absolutely nothing. All he is going to be good for you is a little bit of depth. But he has been given fair opportunities here. And the fact that some Arsenal fans are just trying to act like the last 3 years didn't happen. I'm seeing people put Leverkusen comps up on the timeline. Like, what are we doing?